Hey, we're on, man. We're recording. What's up, guys? Welcome back.
Hey, Alright, welcome back, guys. I'm here with my good friend Daniel. Welcome to the channel. Damn, what were you saying? I thought you said it well. No. What's up, man?
What's up, man? We're on?
Yeah.
We're on, man. All right.
What up, guys? Welcome to our channel. My name's Skyler. This is my boy Daniel.
Yo, what's up, guys? Thank you guys for watching. Let's get to it, man.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I got my friend Daniel here and also my really good friend Lumen Ray. We're here today to discuss some of his past. Hopefully he's going to have some good insight for you guys, and we'll go through a few things of how we grew up possibly. So I'm really excited to actually hear this piece because I've never heard this side of the story. So thank you for being on the show, Ray. Go from there, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you both for having me. Nice to
Thank you, bro.
finally sit down and chop it up with Daniel in person. I feel like we've always heard a lot about each other. So
Definitely. Yeah, well, thank you, man. I mean, again, welcome, guys, and thank you for taking our invite, man.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, so like we kind of talked on the side, I'm excited to hear about whatever you want to share. Speak from the heart, speak to whatever flows naturally to you. I'm really interested in for you to speak about, maybe your upbringing, how you grew up, what made you decide to go into certain avenues of life, your careers, your passion, like everything of that nature. I'm really excited to hear about everything. So if you want to start, from there. And
so I guess I'll start with my upbringing, then I'll lead it into how I met Skyler.
Yeah.
We even got here today. So I was born in Philly. West Philadelphia. I actually grew up in South Jersey in the suburbs outside of the city. Had a pretty good childhood. I can say I had a very good childhood. I came from a 2-parent household. Watched my parents grind. I saw them move from the inner city and buy a bunch of land and build us a home. I got to see the journey of them go from like grinding to grinding and seeing like the fruits of their labor. And I think it instilled a lot in me. Definitely it formed the way I view the world, which is through hard work, dedication, and being intentional in what it can bring. And then keeping God first was something they instilled in all of us, in all 3 of us. I grew up with 2 sisters. I was the oldest, the only boy. So that comes with its own responsibility and fun times. After high school, I left and decided I always said I was going to go to college in either California, Texas, or Florida. And I kind of ended up in a mix of all 3. It was in Arizona. I say that it's a mix because a lot of people retire there, like Florida. It's very desert-like and flat in some portions like Texas. And it reminds you of Texas if you've ever been. Yeah. But it still has that California pizzazz with the palm trees, the mountains, and the landscape. So it was fun times, and I really learned who I was because I didn't know anybody out there. So that was my first risk, and I think my life is defined by taking risks. So yeah, it's so weird when we look at risks. I think of everything I fear. I tend to be drawn towards it. Like I remember when I was a kid, I used to be terrified of roller coasters. And I used to buy Roller Coaster Tycoon. I would build stuff like it didn't make sense. But I would I'm gonna build the biggest drop or the biggest loop. I couldn't get on it myself, but then I would do like the 3D mode. I would hype myself up to the point where, I'm gonna try it out. And then I finally was able to overcome and get on roller coasters. And then like sharks, I used to be obsessed with Shark Week and sharks. And I would be in the ocean looking for sharks, but I was terrified of seeing a shark in the water. But it ended up becoming one of my favorite sea creatures at one point, and then that changed to whales, but that's a whole other story. But that's kind of my fascination with fear. So everything I fear, I tend to touch and try to go after. And it's like that overcoming of it has been kind of cool. And then getting to Skyler, there's a lot of the story that I'm not getting into before that, but I met Skyler after a very thought-provoking conversation. Skyler was a little bit of can I cuss on here?
Yes.
He's a little bit of an asshole.
Was?
Was a little bit of an asshole. But I was like, oh no, I'm gonna talk to this guy. Like I can tell there's something there. And
Yeah.
then we had a thought-provoking conversation around a movie, Interstellar.
Yep.
And then after that, I really saw that Scholar was put on the front and really saw him for who he was. So glad we were able to connect. And then
Definitely.
5, almost 6 years later now, wow, we've stayed not only in touch but become very, very close friends. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. We're leaving a lot out when it comes to like how we met and stuff.
I'm definitely skipping.
But if you had questions, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Okay, well,
You go ahead.
based on what you just said, you said about risk, right? Like that's crazy because usually we tend to walk away from risk,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's why people get stuck. I mean, that was me, at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be afraid of whatever it is, selling,
Yep.
of applying for a job or raising my hand, being volunteering, anything that it was. I was like, nah, I'm gonna look like a fool, right?
Yep.
That's exactly what we were talking about yesterday with Adrian.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So
Full circle.
yeah, it's so crazy. So I never saw it like that. I mean, this is the first person that I see that actually, like gravitates towards fear or like shit like that. So
I'm still scared to death like everyone else. I think
yeah.
My dad, if you were to define him, is and was a risk taker, and I've watched his risks pay off. So I think because of that, it instilled in me the results that come from taking the risks. And then there's a lot of risks I took before I moved to LA in general. And I think each time a risk paid off, it didn't always work all the way out, but it drew me towards like, you're scared, go for it.
Yeah. That's crazy. And I mean, that's a big takeaway in my opinion, because like I said, usually if it's risky, we tend to go around it, and we're always gonna be stuck with the what if. What if I would have spent $700 at that time and bought Bitcoin? Bitcoin back in the days was $700, and I was like, I'm just gonna put 20 because I'm scared. Now every time I'm just like, what if I would have done that? You know what I mean? It's just crazy, and that's pretty respected, I guess, because not everyone does that, bro.
No, I appreciate that. I think it also stems from, I was always a very curious kid. Everyone says, oh, I was an imaginative kid and I was a dreamer, but no, I lived in my head for a good deal of my upbringing. I was a little bit of an outcast. I got bullied a little bit. So I was like always in my head creating worlds. And you asked, fellow friends and kids at that time, I was always like, oh, let's create this. And I lived in my head and I had this whole wild imagination. So I think I always would ask, what if, or why was my favorite thing? Is like, I was that annoying kid. Why? Well, why? So because of that, when I became an adult and I was able to take on my own life and the decisions that would happen as a result of the decisions I made, I kind of just acted that out. Like, well, what if? Well, let me see. Well, I fear that. What happens if let me try that. So I think it's an extension of the kid in me just being curious. Okay. And when I would get fearful, it's like I was obsessed with another thing. I was obsessed with horror movies. I was scared to death, but I would sit there and watch It and The Ring and all of these crazy movies. And my parents would get mad at me. They're like, you can't go to sleep at night. Like, why do you keep doing this to yourself? But I was obsessed, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay in the dark and just stay up and just see if anything happens.
Right.
Because I just wanted to see.
That's crazy.
But that was me, where people are like, oh, go in the mirror and say bloody murder. I was the one doing it. It was just my fascination with just like kind of blocking everything out and like, well, what if?
What if?
You mentioned something that I want to ask, because I think that most of us are not raised that way. But you were the kid that said why a lot. And a lot of parents usually tell your kids, stop asking questions, stop saying why, like, just because I say so. So imagine that upbringing is like you were given the opportunity to ask why.
Oh, no.
No?
No.
Maybe not. I'm saying, but
my dad was in the military.
Yeah.
You don't ask questions.
Yeah.
You follow.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of my actions throughout my life were in rebellion. Not consciously. I just think I think God works in so many crazy ways where it's like, hey, you're like this, so I'm gonna give you a kid totally opposite. So, because we're all lessons to our parents, just like your kids or your kids that you will have will be lessons to you, and the same with mine. I think it's just like, whether you call it karmic debt or whatever, but it's like you're learning something from your kids, just like your kids are learning something from the parents. And I think that was my lesson to my dad. Was all about control, and I was like the wild creative, like, no, I don't want to be controlled, right? But he taught me a lot about boundaries, guidelines, and that discipline. I think if I had not had a dad that was like that, I would not be disciplined to follow things out, because as a dreamer, you tend to just
So yeah, I might have. I might have saw something different than, because for most of us, we're actually told, stop asking questions as an adult. As parents, that's kind of what you do, like, stop asking questions. And I always hoped, as I got older and now that I have my son, I would never told him stop asking questions,
right?
Because they always say the number one thing is you're killing their creativity. They're supposed to learn. They're asking why, because they're curious, not because they're trying to be annoying and you're upset or something. So that's some cool. But do you have any insight on that, or do you have, like, did your parents or your mom or your dad like make you like stop saying why? I mean, Hispanic culture is a little different, so I want to see your take on that.
So based on my upbringing, my parents never really. Well, I guess you could say, because they would just be like, I just be quiet, like, you're annoying kind of thing, And it's funny because I'm like that with my little sister too. I'm like, dude, you're so annoying. So like, dude, you get annoying for everything. So now I'm talking about it, I'm fucking realizing, like, dang, I'm fucking up, because she's just growing up and I didn't learn, dude. Like, what the hell's going on? So, yeah, but no, we never, I was more of the, like I said, the what if. So I wouldn't question things because I knew they weren't going to listen, or they weren't going to, so I wasn't around people who were risk takers. So I was just like, I'm just going to I'll figure it out myself. Like, I'm not going to ask. I'm just going to do what I got to do. I learned the hard way, So it's, yeah, I mean, I wish I would have asked a lot of questions now. Like, now, after we see everything, right? Like, growing up and shit, now we're like, okay, no. But now, I guess it's time to ask questions and then, just help the youth.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to ask, it'll be another question, like, more into, like, when you mentioned, like, about going to college and stuff like that, what made you decide to, like, take on brand marketing? I don't know if that's, like, the field or what's the correct term, but, like, you decided to select a major. Was that the first choice, second choice, or did you not know and that's something you just gravitated towards? Or is that, like, walk us through, like, the choice on that?
I was definitely what they would refer to as a BC student. I did not enjoy school. School was a little bit of a challenge for me. So that's another thing that's a through line in my journey is, some people are just naturally gifted, and, like, no matter what they do, it just seems like it always works out. And, like, oh yeah, I have to work, and I know this is cliche, but I feel like I have to work twice as hard. And school was one of those things where, because of my learning style, it didn't click for me until about the 11th grade, or the summer before the 11th grade, when my parents were like, well, you're going to go to college. And I was just like, I was looking at my grades, I was looking at me, and I was like,
are you sure?
Ain't gonna work, And then I kind of hit this Super Saiyan other level where I just went, and my parents were like, you're getting all A's and a couple B's, like, what's going on? And senior year, same thing. Your writing's improving. Like, and then I got into my dream college, and I think that was the determining factor. I didn't know what I was going to study, to answer your question. I always had a niche for interest in business. I think my parents saw, because I was good with people, like, oh, you're just going to go into business. They knew, like, my one sister, oh, she's smart. She's book smart. She can do this. My other sister, oh, she can do this. It was just like, you're good people. You'll probably end up in sales or something. So just do business. So I followed that. I started a business when I was 11 years old, and I'll talk about my dad, but my mom was instilled in me. She came from corporate America and then left to help my dad with a nonprofit, essentially. So she bought me all of these, like, entrepreneurial books for kids and stuff, like, so I really feel like I got the best of both worlds, from the discipline from my dad, and then the business acumen from my mom, but then also the street smarts from my dad. Like, I really had a very diverse childhood, and I think I'm very fortunate for that. And because of that, and because of the not only the business acumen, but be able to have a little bit of street smarts. My dad instilled that in us, which helped me read people. So I was like, I either want to be a psychologist or be in business and just like sell. So I took up business, went to Arizona State, and I had a 4.0 after my first semester. Now, mind you, I was getting C's, B's, C's, and D's throughout high school. So that proved a lot to me, which is the cliche, you can do anything you put your mind to. But that was kind of my story, is like, you just have to work harder than everybody else. I was undiagnosed, probably like a lot of kids, and I know you can, connect with this with ADD, ADHD. So it's an attention span thing. So now I use coffee to focus because I didn't want to go on medication. I can successfully say I've been through 4 years of college without coffee and Adderall, which a lot of people can't say. So when people say it's not possible, it is possible. Okay, so I took a business, and that set me up for, I think, a good quote unquote career. At that point, I kind of entered people pleasing mode. I was out to, I think because everyone expected me to be like, oh, we're just gonna pray for Ray. I don't know where he's gonna end up, this kind of a thing. I was out to prove something. So that's where I think the 4.0 came out. And then I was out to prove everybody wrong. So I'm proving this. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get the best internship. I'm gonna do this. And then I woke up, graduated from college, had a nice offer for a job, left, took another risk. I'm like, I'm gonna move to Virginia. I don't know nobody there, but I'm gonna take up a job because I had 2 successful internships. And I woke up one day just unhappy because I'm like, I didn't do this for me. I did it to please my parents and prove everybody wrong. And I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
But I woke up unhappy. So
how did that come about? Like, I mean, obviously it takes, I mean, you're not gonna just wake up tomorrow and be like, I fucking hate this shit. Like, I'm just gonna quit. Was it literally just like that? Or what were the signs? Like, where you started like feeling some type of way, like distant from work, from your co-workers, or how?
Everything, distance from work. I was having a ball. Yeah. Mind you, I was like living outside of DC, met friends. And I feel like one thing I enjoy and embrace about my whole life is my diversity in friends and groups. And Skylar knows, like, I've introduced him to a lot of different friends of mine. And some are there for a season, some are there for the long haul. But I was having a ball. What made me realize something was off was distant from my work. I was doing a lot of I thought about the movie Wolf on Wall Street, a lot of high frequency. Doing a lot of that, like just numbers and stuff that that was going through my head. Doing a lot of numbers and high frequency stuff, as they say, and I wasn't happy. So I wanted to get back into my creative side. So I started recording music, and I met my close friend who ended up becoming my business partner. We were starting as songwriters, and I would fly every weekend or drive down to Atlanta from where I was staying and just grinding out. He was interning at like record labels, and we were just trying to get off the ground. And I was recording demos. He was songwriting, and I would co-write and then record, and I would do vocals. Wasn't going anywhere. So then we were like, how do we break into the music industry? So he came up with the idea to like, this little tech space is about to pop off, and just like think about the timing. This is 2012, 2013. So Instagram is barely coming out. So we created a tech startup, and then that's where I'm all about connection and everything coming full circle, as you mentioned. And maybe my creative upbringing and childhood can connect to me learning and all the business acumen, being an analyst and learning all those numbers, because I can put together a business plan. And then we created a startup. So that startup started to gain more momentum than my job. And that's where my time was. I would stay up all night working on that, nap 2-3 hours and going to work. And then, it was just kind of, I was in this like funnel, and we were just dedicated and took the risk and left my job.
I mean, I did have a question, because I mean, you did mention everything from going to college, 4.0, getting internships, being the best. But between those times, were there ever like, because most of the time college students, they start hating life. They don't know what they're going to do with their life. They start having stress 24/7. And I feel like I personally myself, and I'm sure the audience want to know if you were at that point, like, what was your lowest point between those times? Because now, like, you start a couple businesses, and that's cool for me. Like, that's interesting. But also, like, what were the struggles before, like, between?
I actually did have some challenges prior to me taking the risk of moving to Virginia in 2012. So that was like May. Around January, I actually hit a wall and hit a very dark depression, some substance abuse, just like to the point where, like I didn't care if I woke up. And it's so crazy because if you probably were to talk with people around me at the time, they didn't notice. There was only a few people that knew something was off. And if you talk to me now, you're probably like, Ray? Like, because I'm not, I have a heart for people who have a challenge with their mental health journey. But mental health is, I wake up and I am blessed to say that I love my life. And I think I love my life because of that season that I went through.
Correct. Yeah.
So it was a very short-lived depression. It was probably like short-lived. Depression feels like a long time. So short-lived in the macro picture. It was about 4-month period, but that 4 months feels like it's forever, right?
Yeah.
So that was a big challenge, where I would still be out in public, and I was very popular on campus. Like, people knew I was in a fraternity, so I was always out in the public eye, but behind closed doors I was miserable. And I did try to reach out to a few friends at the time and kind of voice what's going on, and a few times I got laughed at because mental health wasn't a bit in 2012. People weren't thinking about mental health. So it's just funny now, because if some of those friends got the calls they got back then, now the response would be totally different, just because of intellectual awareness of like where people are at. But that was a very low point. So I think when I felt myself probably close to later that year or a year later slipping away from my job, it was like, I'm never being that unhappy again.
No, I mean, we appreciated you opening up, because I know that that's tough. And my mentor actually also had the same thoughts. He was depressed and wanted to take his life away. And it's just crazy because everyone from, just a regular 9-to-5 to a successful entrepreneur, they have those thoughts. And the point is to let them out, and that's what we talk about. Just, just open up. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all humans and we try to be better. Yeah. So, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Ray and myself have always had like big conversations and stuff like that. So he's aware of, when, I was in the same circumstance, and I didn't know what I knew what I was doing. At the same time, I didn't know what I was doing because we're so young. I mean, I was only 18, but I was, going through a lot. I just had a kid. I didn't know if what a relationship was. I didn't know what, so much stuff was. And to be in that state, the moment that I woke up 3 days later, that's when I realized I didn't want what I thought I wanted. When you go through the period of like unknowing, like I was asleep, I was out for 3 days before I woke up, and the reason I was out is because they medicated me. And then when I woke up where I was, I said, how the fuck am I here? And how the fuck do I get out? So, and the only, when it gets to that level, when some of us are lucky enough to, let's say, not be not be on record. But once that happens, there's a lot of things that go through it. It's pretty scary because then now you got to deal with, are you mentally okay? Like, was it just an accident? Did you really mean that? And you go think about all this stuff, at a young age, regardless of what age you are, you never know, like, if you really meant to do it. But most of the time, I want to say, and because of where mental health is for men now, I feel like we, for the most part, decide that, that's not entirely what we wanted. We didn't want to take our life away, or we didn't want to end our life. What we wanted to take away was the pain. Pain is the biggest thing that drives me. And I know that, and I feel that is because, and to put it full circle, as even right now, and I'm driving in my car right now, and I was listening to a song about that artist. I forgot what I mentioned to you. Teddy or whatever, listening to another song, and I said, to myself, and I got teary-eyed, and I'm just laughing so hard at myself, and I said, pain is beautiful. And I don't know why I said that to myself, but I just, pain it drives me now, because I've been down so like many times, and but that moment I would never be at that moment again, because one, people can say it's selfish. I don't know if it's selfish. I think that everyone is in right to do whatever they want. It's their life. But I feel like maybe the opportunity just to open up to friends like we do now, the honesty, like, all that, if we're just able to talk, more than likely that thought will never come back. But I can't say that for a fact because, there's plenty of people that still go through it and say like, no, this is what I want. It's like they're so in tune to it because they feel like there's no way out.
Yeah, there was a lot of, not a lot, there was a few significant deaths of young people that happened around the time I was depressed. And between that and then feeling the love that was there around me and like kind of like reaching for it is what pulled me out of it. And that's why I'm so thankful that I've never had those thoughts after that period again. Because I don't know, it was almost like a rebirth at that point where it's like I saw the importance of life. It was like I kind of like it wasn't on shrooms or nothing, but I kind of did like a zoom out, and it was just like, oh, okay. So that was a dark time, and I always forget about it until I see other people that voice to me, or I see them going through a depression, because you can see kind of some signs like, are you okay, like just checking in. Then I remember where I was, so yeah, it's not always blue skies and clear skies and sun.
I mean, for whoever's thinking that way, right, whoever goes through that, it's because I was talking to Leslie and I was telling her, like, even if I wanted to have those thoughts, for some reason I just can't think to, like, I don't know how it is. I've never been depressed. That's a blessing. Yes. I get stressed, but like maybe like, I don't know, dude, like it's, I can't even explain it because I see other people like super stressed. They can't sleep. Their hair is falling. They're not hungry. They're losing weight. I'm chilling, bro. Like even at my lowest point, I could sleep comfortably and I could, so
I think depression's a compounded thing. A lot of times it's like one situation, then another situation, and it's just kind of gains momentum. On top of, people get depressed for different reasons. Some could be just like trauma coming back up, and then they're just like, how do I maneuver this? I'm just trying to move on, right? So I think for me, I was definitely in the camp of, it was just kind of life compounding and me putting the expectations of others onto my own life, not being happy and trying to press through it. Eventually you just kind of stop. And to be completely honest, I was also not living healthily from just like, like, oh, drink, you're in college, so you're like binge drinking, right? And one of the things that I think we don't recognize is alcoholism in our generation, because Instagram, like, oh, let's get a drink, you get a drink. Like, I asked a question one time. I was like, would you even recognize if one of your friends was an alcoholic? Probably not.
Yeah. I think I would. At this state.
I mean,
but not then.
I'm just saying in general, like.
But not then, you wouldn't know.
I mean, but I know plenty of friends that drink every day. I'm not calling anyone who drinks every day an alcoholic, but the thing is, like, it goes so under the radar. Yeah, but in college.
It's a social norm.
It's a social norm, even more so, right? Yeah. In college, you just binge drink. So doing that, rolling up, doing this, doing that, you're just having fun. But there were a few friends around me who could see there was something else. And I, to this day, still thank them for that. And, I've been able to thankfully help them through some of their mental challenges and obstacles. So
that's just going to lead me into the next thing I want to ask you. And hopefully we can talk about and, change the trajectory on where this is going. But, what I love about this is that this gives me a better insight and I just lost the words, but it gives me some insight onto why you created maybe the short film. And I want to ask you about, did that have a lot to do with it, why you created the short film Trigger?
Like my journey, my depression?
No, your desires, like, so the journey and desires. So everything that happened and stuff like that, did that have an impact on why you created Trigger? And if,
I think art is created from real life and is inspired by real life. I think that's why we connect with it, because we connect with the emotions in art. And when I was pulling together the script with my co-writer for the short film, I wanted to have art imitate real life. So I pulled from real life. Was it from any personal depressions I went through? No, but it did deal with, of course, as you know, and as people will know soon, a lot of mental health things and how social media impacts people's mental health and then perception and whether we're wearing a mask or being our true selves. That's really what the crux of the story is outlined as. But for me, it was a mix of me taking what I was seeing externally among my friend group, what I experienced in life, what I've seen people go through, and just the need for our society to showcase perfectionism, but how that can impact you behind closed doors and putting on a fake smile, even though everything's not fine, even to the point where you're fixing and curating your life to fit a brand of yourself that might not be in it, and how that could break you down. So until you mentioned it, I never even saw myself in the film other than, you know, some of the real life stories and things that I knew impacted the film. But to that point, that is something I actually went through. It wasn't through social media. It was probably through back then.
Well, back then it was just actually real life.
Impacting internal, but it was still the internal versus the external.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. Like,
I just thought about that right now.
That connection.
Yeah.
Because it was, like I said, so long ago, and I guess what now, 12 years ago. Yeah, I often forget about that 4-month period until it comes. Until it's triggered.
Yeah, I forget about most of my past. It's like I have to think hard about it to, like, you know, remember certain things. I don't know if it's just because it's naturally buried or because, you know, I feel like I have 3 different lives. You know, my first life started when I was a child, and I feel like that's a different past to me. Like, it feels like a blur. It feels like an alternate reality. And then my second life started when I had my son, and then my third life started when I started opening my mind and my eyes. So
that's when we connected.
Yeah. So I was on my journey already. So that's what I call my third life. Because it was also after the fact, you know, a little bit after that. I wouldn't say it was right after the fact because I was still at 18. But when I started my journey, when I started thinking differently, being different, and not really caring so much is, you know, I was around 22, 23. So it was in between that period. But I feel like I'm on my third life and then stepping into my fourth.
It's so funny you said that. I literally was having a conversation with friends last week. And they were just like, how you been? I was like, I feel like I've entered a new era. I was like, I'm Ray 4.0. So I was like, I've been naming it.
We're on the same vibrance.
I feel like I've entered my kind of fourth, not dimension, but the fourth side of myself, which is definitely the freest I've felt. People who know me know I love to travel. I love nature. And one of my favorite things to do are jump, no life jacket, nothing, usually off of a boat or something or off of a rock into the ocean and just float. I can be in 50 feet of water. I don't care what's under me. I don't care what's around me. I just like float. What's so funny about this?
So I meet the opposite.
I'm like, dude, I did. No, dude, I had a life vest, life jacket. It took me like 30 minutes to get back to the boat with the life jacket.
Dude, we have pictures and everything, dude. That's sorry to embarrass you.
That's what I was laughing.
He's joking. When y'all went to vacation in Cabo.
Yeah, with the one in Cabo.
All right, let me tell my story, and then you can tell you.
Sorry.
I'm down. I like to do crazy shit, you know, fun stuff. Yeah. But I don't know how to swim.
Okay.
Like I know how to swim, but I can't float. Like I can swim across, but if I stop in the middle, I'm dead. The life jacket, there was 2, a pink one and a blue one.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm not gonna get the pink one.
Okay.
I get the blue one. It was broken from the clip in the first clip.
Yeah.
The bottom one worked. I'm like, I didn't think about it. I'm just gonna do it. We're like in the middle of the ocean. The boat stops. I jump out. And
with the life jacket on.
With the life jacket
okay.
on. But keep in mind that the first clip was broken.
Yep.
So pretty much it was like
just fanning out. Okay.
So I jump. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I'm gonna swim. But I guess the current was like a little tough, you know. And as I was trying to swim, like the water will go inside the top part, and they'll flip me around. Every time. So I mean that took me 30 minutes to get to the boat. I was swallowing a bunch of salt water.
I hate to be this person, but did you die?
No. But it was fun. I'm not saying It was
just for a reference. I jumped in after
He
him.
tried
And
to
I
save
gave
me,
him.
though.
I tried to save him, but it was hard because it was a strong current. But I couldn't push him into it. So I think we gave you a board, right?
Hold on.
no, not even there.
Hold
I thought
on.
we gave you that board. You
No,
couldn't
that
get
was
on.
no, that was like
Adrian.
no, that was after. No, we tried
Oh,
to.
that was after.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
the second time you jumped in again.
I tried to. Yeah.
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
We've all been to Cabo. That water is very salty and
Oh,
very
yeah.
buoyant.
Yeah.
It's very salty, very buoyant.
Pretty.
So
How?
did you go like under?
No. I was just struggling. I
I'm
kept
just,
left.
I'm honestly just messing with you.
So
I
we-
do have a heart for people who are scared of water because I've never, well, okay, here's another thing. Overcoming fear. To connect it all. I drowned 3 times, almost drowned, not to death, but almost drowned 3 times and was terrified of water. And then my grandfather was patient with me and taught me how to swim. So now people who hear that like you. So I knew that was like probably the first lesson of overcoming fear was actually water, to be ironic. So after that, I was like, it's just it's just water. So I got you. That's
For
good.
sure. Hey, yeah, I'm not scared of water though, but again, I can't float. I just
But yes, floating is my specialty.
It's a good.
I don't even know why we brought up floating, but
no, because you were saying about like you like to travel,
And you like
nature.
to jump into 50 feet. You don't care if it's 50 feet of water. That's
the
why.
freest I've ever been, and the freest I ever feel is when I'm floating in the water.
Yeah.
So in moments where life feels like it's too much, we're going back to that childhood Ray being imaginative. I just float in the water. I literally like close my eyes. People who know me know I like to like center myself, get myself together, but I will just pretend I'm floating in the water. And that metaphor for me, when I did my short film and I was scared to death if I had never directed a narrative short film and like all this money was spent and I saw the set, first thing I'm like, whew, I'm here.
Yeah.
I just close my eyes and pretend I was just floating in the water and it just calmed me.
Yeah, I have the same thing with water. I mean, I've always loved water. I've done lifeguarding and I did swimming in high school and stuff. So I've always had a good connection.
You're a flipper. Aren't you?
Yeah, flipper.
you're a flipper.
So I've always had like a good relationship with water.
Oh, literally a
But my favorite thing to do if I ever need to like a time to myself, I don't have a pool, but if I did, I would probably go to the bottom of the pool and I would sit there for like a minute
And just sit
and hold
there.
my breath.
Well, I have a bathtub deep bathtub if you ever need to just go to the bottom of the tub.
I mean, yeah, I want to do an ice bath there.
It's not dark.
If you ever want to go to the bottom of my tub.
No, I mean, it's crazy, bro. Well, again, thank you for your time and stuff. Well, tell us now. I'm moving forward. Like now, what is Ray doing right now?
As a scholar always knows, I always do this for people in my close circle. It means connection to me. So I'm all about connecting the dots, and I feel like I loved the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once because it really is like how my brain works. Is like connecting the dots and everything in your past selves, future selves, and other reality versions of yourselves are out there. And I really believe that, like, not maybe necessarily literally like that, but I believe that you have access to every thought, every dream, everything you ever wanted. So for me, currently I'm in brand marketing. I work in product development and brand development for a few anime shows by day. And then I grind daily, during GrindCast.
Let's go.
I am a film director, executive producer, and I guess writer. And I do music. I do a lot of things. Overall creative. For me, the dots connect, going back to that word. When I was a kid, I remember I would imagine these worlds and I would write a lot. Or in high school, I changed, no shade to the guy who created Hamilton, but I was doing that before Hamilton came out. I would remember like Macbeth and Hamlet. We had to do an English project. I took like the top 40 on the radio, changed all the lyrics and did a whole production to the story and like got 100 on the project. And did dancing choreography, like very theatrical. And I actually not a huge fan of musicals, ironically. But I feel like all of that is now coming together full circle, like where my music is intersecting with my film and my film is intersecting with my creative worlds I've created. And my business acumen is intersecting with the film work and then what I do at work. And it all comes full circle. And I feel like for me, if I had to leave people with anything, is connect your own dots. And I always do this metaphor of like where it's a big matrix, and kind of God, the universe, whatever you believe, just puts out all the dots and you connect them. You just connect the dots to what makes sense next and leave the big picture to something beyond yourself. And I feel like when you do that, the picture's never going to look how you planned it, but it's going to be one hell of a beautiful thing. And that's where I'm at right now, connecting the dots. And I feel like the freest I've ever been, the fullest I've ever been is now, because everything, I'm starting to be aware of the dots and how they all connect. So that's kind of like where I'm at. Yeah.
Cool, man. I mean, great story. Amazing. Any final words, thoughts?
No,
Yeah,
I just I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed as always, and Daniel knows this too. You know, we always want to record our conversations. I'm so happy that you finally were on here and we were recording this one, because we always try to record it, and hopefully we use the app and we record our conversations more, because I feel like there's just so much story to tell. Mm-hmm. And even with a short amount of time, like you spent a good amount of time, like, you know, giving me a different side of you. And so I love that. I mean, it obviously brings us closer, as always, because we've been knowing each other for so long. We've probably known, I think I've known like you about the same amount of time I know him. My heart is that. But I just love it. I love hearing everyone's story, seeing sides of them that maybe I don't get to see all the time. Sometimes we don't get alone time. As far as like, you know, friends, we're always busy. You grind. You're one of the hardest people I've ever seen work. And I say that because, and same with Daniel, like he's up at 4 at the gym and stuff. And I always want to applaud you no matter what, because I know that you're up till midnight, you're up freaking sleeping 3 hours, and you're still able to do so much, you know. And so that gives me motivation, whether you know it or not, or you know, even though I don't maybe not see it, but I know that you're doing it. So it always makes me want to be just 100 times better, you know. So I really appreciate everything, and I look forward to maybe having you on again and maybe talking about, you know, the next film that we do or something like that. But I mean, as always, I love you, man, and again, thank you. And then Daniel, I think you always have like an outgoing question.
I do, but I mean, he did say, I mean, we got to get flowers when they're due, right? Like, so keep looking forward to get to know you more and watch your short film.
Thank you.
Now I'm intrigued. I wonder what it is and stuff. So,
we actually,
my last question is, but you mentioned it, but again, I'll still ask it.
Yep.
If you were to teach one thing to the world, what would it be and why? I mean, you did mention
if I were to teach one thing to the world, what would it be and why?
Yeah, you said the 4 connecting the dots. So that kind of goes in there, but
it would be, life is going to always present wins and quote unquote losses that end up not being losses, except for I don't touch grief in people, because they are losses, but they are meant for when they're meant in your life. But outside of that, for people to lean into the macro versus the micro, this moment is just a small moment in a huge thing that we're all living in. And I believe when we get to the end of our journey here on Earth, the little moments we stressed over, we're not going to even reflect on. We're going to reflect on the journey itself.
That's right.
And the beauty in it.
Yeah, of course.
And for me, if I had to share something with the world, is to remember when times get tough, to lean into the macro and the bigger picture. And when times are going good, add it to your escrow of like, oh, this is adding to the beauty of life. And when times aren't going good, okay, this is preparing me for what's next, for that next big win, that next big moment. And I feel like if you continue to do that, it keeps, at least from my perspective, it keeps you in a state of humility, gratitude, and open heart. I feel like a lot of times, I always talk up to Scholar about this, there's resistance and allowance. We can either resist something and have our fists closed and just kind of fight with it, or just allow it and flow with it, like the ocean. Like flow. You know, like the current, you don't fight against the current. You go with the current and figure out how do you maneuver the current. And as the great Bruce Lee says, water, be like water.
As always, guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you again for watching. I look forward to sharing this with you. Ray, thank you again so fucking much for being on the show.
I love you.
And I love you, man.
Love you too.
Daniel, as always.
I'm glad
pleasure.
that I get to share some moments with you, man. I've heard a lot about you, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
Likewise, man. Thank you once again. Appreciate it. Hopefully, we could bring him back some other time.
Well, maybe y'all should bring me back to interview y'all, so I can learn more about you, and then they can.
I still have a bunch of questions to ask, but we'll do a second part 2, and then you can do us.
Okay.
yeah, because that's still. Yeah, man. Well, thanks again. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, like Scarlett said, and peace.
Yeah. Peace out, guys.